I leaned back in the leather chair of my corner office, the skyline of New York glittering through the glass wall like a stage set designed just for me. My silk blouse clung softly to my shoulders, still warm from the morning sun that poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows. On the desk before me, my phone buzzed again, persistent, like it wanted to pull me out of the illusion that I had finally made it. I glanced at the screen. The name flashing there made my chest tighten. Mark. My cousin. The same cousin who years ago had slipped my first camera into his backpack and walked away as if it were his by right. Now here I was, CEO of a media company that people in the industry whispered about with awe, my calendar stacked with meetings that decided trends and headlines. Yet no one in my family really knew the scope of it. To them, I was still trying something creative, like it was a phase I hadn't grown out of. The irony made me smirk, but beneath the smile was something sharper. Hurt. Pride. Resilience. My pulse quickened as I considered what his message meant. We need to talk. Family's coming to New York. Thought we'd drop by your place. I placed the phone face down on the desk, staring out at the city I had claimed as my own. They were coming. After all these years. And they had no idea what they were about to walk into. I was 19 when it happened, though I can still feel the sting like it was yesterday. Back then, I wasn't Emily Carter, media entrepreneur. I was just Emily, the awkward girl in oversized hoodies, the one who carried her secondhand Nikon camera everywhere, as if it were stitched to my skin. It wasn't just a camera, it was my ticket out. Each click of the shutter made me believe I could capture beauty that others overlooked, the way sunlight touched raindrops on a window, the honest sadness in someone's eyes, the chaos and charm of ordinary life. But not everyone saw it that way. Especially not my cousin Mark. The night it happened, we were at a family barbecue in Ohio. I had been taking candid shots of everyone, the kids chasing fireflies, my aunt laughing with her glass of lemonade. Even Mark pretending to grill, though, he kept burning everything. I remember setting my camera down on the porch rail while I helped Grandma carry a tray inside. When I came back, it was gone. At first, I thought I misplaced it. Then I saw him, Mark, stuffing something into his backpack. My chest dropped. Mark, is that my camera? I asked, my voice trembling. He looked at me like I was ridiculous. Relax, Sam. You don't need it. You're not going to make money off taking pictures of picnic tables. His words hit harder than the theft itself. My throat burned, tears blurring the fireworks that had just begun in the distance. I wanted to scream, to snatch it back, but everyone else was laughing, eating, oblivious. I stood there, hands shaking, humiliated in the middle of my own family. That night, I cried in my room until my eyes swelled. But before I collapsed into sleep, my grandmother, Margaret, slipped in. She didn't scold me for being dramatic. Instead, she placed a small silver locket in my hand, her old keepsake with a tiny photograph of her and my late grandfather. Emily, she whispered, smoothing my hair like she used to when I was a child, the world will try to steal things from you. Sometimes even your own blood. But no one can steal your eye, your way of seeing. That's yours. Protect it. Use it. Her words etched themselves into me. By morning, I had made a decision. If they didn't believe in me, fine. I would carve out my own path, even if it meant leaving them behind. Leaving Ohio wasn't glamorous. It was messy, filled with arguments about wasting potential and throwing away security. My parents wanted me to study accounting, something respectable. But I packed 2 suitcases, my grandmother's locket, and a stubborn fire in my chest, and boarded a Greyhound bus to New York City. The city was brutal at first. I rented a shoebox apartment with peeling paint and a radiator that groaned like it hated me. I worked double shifts at a cafe near Times Square, serving lattes to people who didn't look up from their phones, just to cover rent. My real work began when I got home, at 1 a.m., editing photos on a used laptop that overheated after 10 minutes. I borrowed cameras whenever I could. Sometimes I'd rent cheap gear, other times I begged friends from photography class to let me tag along on shoots. I was desperate, hungry. And in that hunger, I learned. I learned framing, lighting, storytelling, not just the technical parts, but the art of making someone feel through an image. My first break came when a local fashion blogger reposted one of my street shots without credit. Normally, that would have enraged me. But this time, it caught the eye of a woman named Sofia Alvarez, who ran a boutique creative agency. She tracked me down and asked, "Did you take this photo? Because if you did, you've got something rare." Sofia became my mentor, the kind of woman who refused to let me shrink. She pushed me to pitch my first client, a tiny bakery in Brooklyn that needed social media content. I was terrified, my hands trembling as I presented sample shots of their cupcakes, but they said yes. When that first $200 payment hit my account, I cried, not because of the money, but because someone finally valued what I saw. From there, the wins stacked slowly, unevenly, but they came. A clothing line hired me for their lookbook. A startup asked for a promotional video. I learned to film, to edit motion, to tell stories that lived and breathed on screen. Nights blurred into mornings as I taught myself new skills with YouTube tutorials and sheer stubbornness. But I never shared the full story with my family. When my mom called, I'd downplay it. "Yeah, I'm doing okay. Just freelancing." When cousins asked on Facebook, I posted vague updates, nothing flashy. A part of me wanted to protect my progress from their judgment. Another part wanted to save the reveal for the day it would matter most. Years passed. My tiny freelance gigs evolved into partnerships. Sofia encouraged me to register my own LLC. I hired my first assistant, then 2, then 10. Soon, Carter Media wasn't just a name on paper, it was a buzzing company with clients nationwide. Still, in quiet moments, I'd touch the silver locket around my neck and hear Grandma's words, "No one can steal your eye." And she was right. What Mark had stolen was just a camera. What I built from that loss was an empire. The day my family arrived, New York felt unusually golden. The late afternoon sun spilled across the glass towers, throwing long shadows onto the pavement. My office, perched high above Madison Avenue, glowed like a cathedral of light. The timing was poetic. I had instructed my staff to clear the front lobby. No distractions, no clutter. Just the elegance of Carter Media standing in full view. Marble floors polished to perfection. Framed photographs on the walls, my photographs, capturing stories of resilience. A young ballerina tying her shoes before her first recital, a protester raising her fist in the rain, a mother kissing her child goodbye at an airport terminal. Each one was a piece of me, of the life they had doubted. When the elevator dinged and the doors slid open, I saw them. My parents, a few aunts, 2 younger cousins trailing behind, and then Mark, still tall, still smug, though a bit heavier than I remembered. His eyes scanned the space, confusion flickering as if he wasn't sure if they'd stepped into the wrong building. "Emily," my mother asked, her voice hesitant. I stood by the reception desk, silk blouse crisp, heels clicking as I walked forward. "Welcome," I said simply, letting the words hang in the air. Mark gave a low whistle. "Damn, fancy office you're working at." I smiled, tight, deliberate. "I don't work here." I paused, watching the room fall silent. "I own it." The air shifted. My father blinked, my mother's lips parted in shock, and one of the younger cousins gasped audibly. Mark's smirk faltered. "You own this?" he asked, almost laughing, like the idea was absurd. I gestured toward the glass doors that led into the bullpen where my team worked, editors hunched over monitors, videographers sorting equipment, designers arranging mood boards. Every campaign you've seen on billboards lately? Every viral video you've shared without even realizing it? This company made them. My company. Silence stretched. I let them drink it in. The glass conference room behind me displayed awards lined neatly on a shelf, industry plaques, innovation prizes, even a Forbes feature framed on the wall. "You always said I was wasting my time," I continued, my voice steady, calm but edged with steel. "You said photography was a hobby, that I'd never make it. And yet, here we are." My mother reached for a chair, her hands trembling. My father cleared his throat as if words might come, but none did. The younger cousins looked at me with wide eyes, as though seeing me for the first time. Mark shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I didn't mean back then, I held up a hand, stopping him. You stole my first camera, Mark.
Remember?
You laughed at me when I cried. That day you made me feel small, like my dream was ridiculous. But all you really did was light a fire I couldn't put out. The room was heavy with their stunned silence. For once, I wasn't the timid girl seeking approval. I was the woman who had built something undeniable, and the proof was all around us. Finally, I gestured toward the city skyline stretching beyond the glass wall. This is my world now. You came here expecting to see me struggling, but instead, this is who I've become. Mark swallowed hard, guilt flashing across his face. My parents sat frozen, pride and regret mingling in their eyes. And me? I stood taller, the locket at my throat catching the sunlight, as if my grandmother herself was standing beside me. The reveal was complete. They knew now. Every doubt, every dismissal, they had to face what I had become. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the office equipment behind the glass walls seemed louder than ever, a quiet orchestra underscoring the tension in the room. Mark was the first to break. He shoved his hands into his pockets, rocking back on his heels.
So, wow.
Okay, you've done well for yourself. Maybe you could put in a good word for me? I've been thinking about switching careers. Media could be fun. His casual tone, as if he were asking for a free pass, made something in me harden. I crossed my arms, tilting my head slightly. You think you can just walk in here, after years of mocking me, and ask for a shortcut? That's not how this works, Mark. His jaw tightened, but before he could respond, my father finally spoke. Emily, we didn't realize. We thought you were just, chasing a phase. We wanted you to be safe. I looked at him, my heart pulling in two directions, hurt and compassion. I know. You wanted stability. But your version of safety meant killing the very thing that gave me life. I couldn't accept that. Silence fell again. I let it linger, then straightened my posture, my voice steady. If you want anything from me now, whether it's a job, an opportunity, or even a relationship, you'll need to meet my conditions. They all looked at me, startled. I began with Mark. You want to work here? Fine. But you're starting at the bottom. Intern level. Coffee runs, data entry, the grind no one sees. You'll earn your place like everyone else. Or you don't get a place at all. His mouth opened, but I continued before he could protest. Mom, Dad, if you want a relationship with me now, I need you to respect what I do. No more dismissing it as a hobby. No more minimizing my achievements. If you can't see my work as real, then you don't get access to my life. My mother's eyes brimmed with tears, but she nodded, clutching my father's hand. And one more thing, I said, my tone softening but still firm. If you want to be part of my world, you need to support each other's dreams too. No more tearing down, no more belittling. This family has survived too long on competition and sarcasm. That ends now. They exchanged looks, some ashamed, some contemplative. I stepped closer, lowering my voice but sharpening my words. I built this empire because I refuse to let your voices drown out mine. If you want to walk beside me now, it will be on terms of respect, not control. The weight of my words settled over the room like a final gavel. For the first time, I wasn't the child begging for approval. I was the one setting the rules. The days that followed weren't simple. Change never is. But little by little, I began to notice shifts. Mark showed up at the office on Monday morning, early for once, wearing a borrowed button-down that didn't quite fit. I watched from my glass-walled office as he took notes during orientation, his shoulders slouched, but his eyes sharper than I remembered. For the first time, maybe ever, he looked humbled. My parents started calling me differently too. Not with small talk about the weather or reminders about what I should be doing, but with genuine questions. How was your shoot today, Emily? What campaign are you excited about right now? The curiosity wasn't perfect, but it was real. And as much as I wanted to stay hardened, I felt something inside me soften. Because growth isn't just about proving people wrong. It's about creating space for them to grow with you if they choose. One evening, after a long day of back-to-back shoots, I sat alone in my office. The city lights twinkled like a galaxy spread at my feet. I unclasped my grandmother's locket and turned it over in my palm. The tiny photo inside had faded with time, but her words still echoed clearly. No one can steal your eye. Tears pricked my eyes, but this time they weren't from hurt. They were from gratitude. She had seen something in me long before I had the courage to fight for it. I thought about that barbecue years ago, about the sting of watching my cousin walk away with the one thing I thought mattered most. And now, here I was, surrounded not by loss, but by abundance. By a company I had built, a vision I had protected, a life I had earned. I straightened in my chair, a calm smile spreading across my face. My cousin took my camera. I whispered into the quiet room, the words rolling smooth like a closing line to a story, but I own a media company. And in that moment I knew the chapter of doubt was closed forever.